Going beyond the headlines. Asking the questions you want answered. Exploring government policies and how they impact you. We are delving deeper.
Good evening and welcome to Delving Deeper. I'm your host, Kimberly D'Souza. Joining us this evening is community activist and newly minted attorney at law, Mr. Kareem Marcelle. Kareem, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good evening, Kimberly, and good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks so much for having me here today.
So first of all, let me start by congratulating you on your recent accomplishment. How does it feel?
It's a great feeling. It's a feeling that I feel blessed about and I feel very honored to be in.
Now, having been admitted to the bar, you would have achieved one of your childhood dreams. At times, it seemed as if you may not get there because the road seemed a bit challenging. How were you able to overcome some of those obstacles?
Yes, indeed. Coming from the community of Beetham Gardens and coming from a single parent home, whilst I had the dream of becoming an attorney from very young, it was just that, a dream. Because the more that I look into try to look into the future in terms of looking to see how the dream was going to become a reality, I was faced with my own reality, the reality of, not having the finance, knowing that my mom at the time did not have the finances in order to make me accomplish that. But one of the things that I always held steadfast to was that once you work very hard, once you put your faith in Jehovah God, that all dreams, even the ones that seem impossible, can be possible. And I think that it was from that angle that I approached my dream to become an attorney at law with such vigor and enthusiasm, although I did not have the finances at the time. And when I was in primary school, the government would have developed and rolled out the GATE program. And the GATE program was something that, even from very young, I was interested in current affairs and politics and so on. I had always looked up to Mr. Manning and so on. And I remember the GATE policy being rolled out, and I said, aha, this is how I'm going to achieve it. Because I knew that regardless of my socioeconomic background, that once I worked hard in school and I satisfied the matriculation process, qualifications for any university, that regardless of my mother's salary or my family's capabilities, that I would still be able to achieve that. And I think that is where I started from in terms of aiming to become an attorney at law, but the road was very, very, very difficult. Difficult in the sense that growing up, apart from the challenges we had at home, growing up in the community of Beetham Gardens was a very tough thing growing up there. In fact, I was just on my way here thinking about it was almost the anniversary of what could have been my death as it relates to gang violence in my community. And because what happened is, with the rival gangs that we have going on in the community of Beetham Gardens, and that was some years ago, at least about 10 years ago, there was a point where, because there was two warring gangs, and one of the warring gangs actually mistaken. It was a case of mistaken identity. They thought I was one person who was living in my street, a young man who less than a year after that incident, he passed away. And but not just passed away, he was killed as it relates to gang warfare and so on. And I had to run for my life. I had 3 gunmen shooting behind me, thinking that this is the person that they wanted to kill. And only afterwards realized that it wasn't the person. So challenges like that, which could easily trigger you to go down the road. And it wasn't an easy thing getting back on track. Whilst I was at Trinity College, whilst that was going on in terms of my school attendance. But challenges like that, it just goes to show that many of times these obstacles can really try to hold you back and bring you down. But again, I held steadfast that I was determined to make a difference and determined to make and really try to make my mother's hard work pay off.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you mentioned as well, you have your mom, who of course is your support system. You have your community of Bethlehem Gardens, but you would have mentioned Jehovah God. And I'm wondering, is it that you are religious? Is it that God really guides your?
I guess you have some opinions.
Wow.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, Honorable AG. Good evening, and thanks for being here.
I
This is a
got
surprise.
word that you were here, and I asked permission to intervene and to impose on you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, AG.
I thought I should come. I happened to be in the Hall of Justice. Yes,
Yes.
last week Friday when you were being called to the bar. I was presenting a petition for someone else,
Yes, I saw.
and I've read your story since then, and I thought, what an impressive story. You know, I thought I should just come and offer my congratulations. I brought a gift for you, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. You know, I saw you being admitted, and I was very impressed the following morning when I read the start of what must be a remarkable story, because that's just a very small bit. And I heard you were going to be here, so I asked permission to impose myself so that I could come and offer my personal congratulations. And I brought you a gift, and I'll tell you a little bit about the gift that I brought. You and I have a common background. We both come out of the Hugh Woodin Law School.
Yes.
So Hugh Woodin, as you would recall, is or was the first Chief Justice of independent Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
And I had the remarkable privilege when I started practicing law, having graduated from the Hugh Woodin Law School, to start in chambers, as you are doing now with Pamela Elder, Senior Counsel, with his eldest son, Selby Woodin, Queen's Counsel. And I spent significant part of my early years as a lawyer in chambers with Selby Woodin. And he, in the course of working with him, he gave me a gift of a couple books that belonged to his father. I brought one of them for you.
Thank you very much.
It's old. You're going to have to care it. I'm going to ask you to, at some point, give it back to me so I can get it properly rebound for you. But what makes this really valuable is that it is signed by Hugh Woodin himself. So you have a book on the law of damages that once belonged to Sir Hugh Woodin.
Thank you so much, EG. It's an honor. It's a privilege. A surprise, a very important, surprise. I'm humbled to accept this gift. As just not a gift from you as well, but a gift that has been passed down from only, I can say, a lineage of greatness.
That's right.
Men who I look up to as men of integrity, who have held this noble profession to the highest standards. And it's something that I appreciate very much, and I want to thank you sincerely.
You're very welcome. And I mean, you've hit the spot on, because you talk about integrity and standards, and those are two things that are expected in the profession to which you now belong. And I am, from the little that I've read of you, I'm very confident that, and you've just said it, that you recognize those as the virtues of a very honorable profession.
Most definitely.
It is a profession which has had its ups and downs. I would encourage you. I'll tell you a little story. Do you know the story of the blue bag that you put your gown in? The bag that you, when you come out of court, you put your because I think I saw you standing with the bag on the Hall of Justice steps when you came out that morning, that evening, and you were greeted by your friends and from your community.
Yeah.
The reason for that bag, and this may surprise Trinidad and Tobago, lawyers are not supposed to advertise. So when you come out of court, the distinguishing feature of being a lawyer is your gown. You're not allowed to walk into the road with your gown on. You must take that gown off and put it discreetly into the bag and walk out of court with your gown in the bag, because if you walk through the streets with your gown flapping around, it's advertising the fact that you're a lawyer. And one of the standards, one of the principles, the ethics of the profession is that one is not allowed to advertise. You advertise yourself only by the quality of the work that you do the integrity that you bring to the job, the hard work that you commit to your client's cause, and the respect which they will give you and the judges will give you for doing a good job for the client and observing a solemn oath to uphold the rule of law and the profession. So that's the significance of that bag.
Yeah.
Part of the ethics of the profession is that, surprisingly, lawyers are not supposed to advertise.
Yeah.
You know, you should be reluctant
Yeah.
when you have done your case successfully, as I am sure you will do. You should be reluctant to be standing on the steps of the Hall of Justice, proclaiming your greatness to the members of the media who will want to speak with you. I'll tell you, one of the things that I am probably not regarded well by the media for is that I don't court the media. I never have.
Yeah.
I've done many cases in my career, but I don't consider that my job is to argue my client's case in the media. It is to argue the client's case in court and to do the best that I can for them. That's the story of the bag.
Yeah.
You know, and ethics are important. The judges who admitted you on Friday spoke about ethics.
Most definitely.
It's very important to hold the standards of the profession very high. I'll say one other thing before I take my leave, because I have another commitment to go to. And it is something that I have learned along the way. And it is a little story I'll tell you about Selby Wood in my first head of chambers. Once I came into the chambers and I put out my hand to shake his hand. And he held his hand back and he says, Armour, called him by my last name until we got to know each other much better. He says, Armour, barristers don't shake hands because the offer of the open palm, when you shake someone's hand, is an offer of peace. And barristers are supposed to be adversaries in court. So I started off in court in my profession for the first 30 years. I've been at it more than 30 years now. Being an adversary in court, respectfully against the lawyers on the other side. And I've made a transition that I want to encourage you to start with. And you will have learned about it in the law school. Mediation.
Yeah.
One of the most valuable attributes that you can bring as a young lawyer growing up in the profession is to recognize that you are not only going to do the job for your client by fighting his case in court, but helping people to talk to each other, to mediate their differences, to come away with a solution that both parties can own. Instead of there being a winner and a loser, you encourage your client and the client of the other lawyer. Let's sit down. Let's find a way to talk through our differences. We don't win battles only by fighting each other. We win the ultimate battle of giving meaning to the life that we live in our community by finding a way to talk to persons who have a point of view different to yours and finding a common solution both parties can own and proclaim as a victory. And that's a very serious skill that comes now to the legal profession. We have a mediation board only last week, Friday.
Here's what I found.
The instruments, Siri is making an introduction here. Only last Friday, I participated in a function at the Hugh Wooden Law School at which the instruments of appointment were being handed out to the members of the mediation board, an institution that helps people to resolve their differences, in which lawyers have a very significant role to play. Help your clients to find a solution that doesn't involve fighting.
Yeah, most definitely, AJ. And in fact, I think that it even, as it relates to helping the court achieve its overarching objective, to deal with cases justly and fairly and quickly as possible. And I think that many times we can save our justice system and give the justice system what we call an ease up if we really try to deal with mediation and settle these matters as soon as possible. Because many times, I think attorneys, most of the times, you know what is the likely outcome, and many times, if attorneys can really come together, putting emotions aside and dealing with what we consider the most just and fair outcome, then I think maybe maybe there maybe even be a case of compromise at times.
Exactly.
But at times, I think that overall we'll win it as it relates to this battle, as it relates to helping our court system ease up definitely to fasten cases and so on. So I think it's an amazing advice that you have given, and I most certainly appreciate it. And I even want to go further, Honorable AG, to even suggest that we have the conversation a bit wider in Trinidad and Tobago, so that not only persons in the fraternity, but generally speaking, that the public could be more aware of the benefits of mediation, and perhaps to see what legislative and what policy decisions that we can make collectively to achieve that goal.
Bang on.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep in touch with you if you don't mind.
Yes, most definitely.
There's a card in here that I wrote to you, so I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to run away if you don't mind.
Thank you.
But congratulations again. You have a great future ahead of you. You belong to an honorable profession, and you have very high standards to set and an example for other persons like you when you were very young to follow.
Thank you so much, Honorable AG.
Thank you so much, Senator the Honorable Reginald Armour SC, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, for coming in and sharing those words of advice with Kareem. Now, Kareem, was that a surprise?
It was indeed a surprise.
So mission accomplished.
Yeah. It was a surprise. You know, I saw AG come in and I was like, to my voice, I have to make sure. I said, AG. You know, but it was really a pleasant surprise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Honorable Attorney General have paved the way for so many young attorneys and persons under him. And it's definitely an experience that I will never forget. And I'm grateful that you were able to facilitate that.
Now, one of the things that we realized, I mean, when you were admitted to the bar, and you would have admitted it, of course, the community came out. They came out with you at the Hall of Justice. They gave you that support. So now to see the Attorney General also giving you that support as well, how does it feel?
It feels great. It feels great in the sense that, you know, so many persons from different quarters, they sit silently in their different corners, and they are rooting for you and they are wishing you well. And sometimes we take for granted that. And I think within this last few days, it has been so overwhelming, you know, sitting back and watch so many persons from different walks of life, from honorable high office holders like the Honorable Attorney General, from my members in the community, members of the media, so many other persons coming forward and expressing their heartfelt congratulations and giving me positive advice, and giving me that words of encouragement. And I think that it's a great feeling, and it's a great step as we move forward and try to recognize positivity throughout the country, and just start promoting that level of positivity.
Yeah. And as you have that all-round support from community, from Attorney General, even from other people in authority, what sort of advice do you have for anybody who may also be thinking that they want to achieve something but may have doubts that they're ever going to fully achieve their dreams?
I think that one of the biggest barriers that we have to get over, if that is our thought, is thinking that we can't get it done. I think that the first thought that we must have is that we can get it done. There may be obstacles in terms of, not only obstacles, but the reality of some challenges that may occur, some hurdles. But I think that once we put our mindset, once we put down our heads, that we put in the work, that we have faith in Almighty God, and that we just trust the process and just know that despite what life throws at you, that once it's for you, it's for you. And to me, that's a combination of some great recipe that anybody could use, whether it's for the field of you want to be a footballer and you're an injury right now and you're hesitating to go and do your therapy as you're supposed to, or whether it's the field of medicine, you may have gone on a job, you may not have succeeded in the way that you wanted to see, but you take up yourself the next morning and you keep going, because only when you keep going is when you will be able to achieve that goal. So I think that anyone who is listening and who we can reach to this, I think that just believe in yourself. Believe that no matter where you come from, no matter your circumstances, never too late to start something, it's never too early. it's right on time. Just keep pushing.
Now, first lawyer from Beetham Gardens, first recipient of the McCandle Dagger Scholarship in Law. I mean, is this some sort of evidence that hard work pays off? Do you agree?
Yeah, most definitely. And not only that hard work pays off, but many a times that what is for you is for you. Because as it relates especially to the McCandle Dagger Scholarship in Law, it was a scholarship so uniquely designed by the University of Western Indies that to me it was that year it was only suited for me. Because whilst I attended Trinity College and I did Form 6 as well there, and I got 8 CSEC passes and so on. I didn't get ones. I never got a 1, so I got 2s and 3s and so on. And if anybody knows who in the field of law and who have applied to the University of the West Indies Faculty of Law, you would know that you cannot get in without having those ones. And led by Professor Rosemary Bell-Antwine at the time, who was the Dean of the Faculty of Law, came up with this exact scholarship, the McCandle Douglas scholarship in law, which was not only based on getting recipients who or potential students who satisfy the general matriculation process, which is getting all the ones, getting the scholarships and so on, but it was designed for persons who were involved in community activism, persons who would go there and become an attorney and be a social change agent in this country. And I think that at that time, although I went into not being sure if I'll get through or not having my hopes up high, eventually when I was selected, in all my years growing up, every time I cried was always because something was bad, something was sad, I was angry. But for the first time, when I received that scholarship, was the first time in my entire life that I cried for joy. And I think that to me, it reached a point where it wasn't just because, of course, it was hard work, because if I was not involved, I go out into my community and go out into Trinidad and Tobago, try my best to deal with community activism, social activism, political activism, and so on. And I'm trying to fight for so many different causes and so many different persons within my community, within East Port of Spain, within Trinidad and Tobago. But I went out there and I was doing that hard work. And I didn't know that it would have had a scholarship that was designed in such a way that would be able to, to give back to persons who are doing something like that. So definitely hard work, but definitely, I think it's a destiny from Jehovah God. Yeah.
Now, your community is plagued by several issues, crime and gang violence being, some of the main issues. I'm just thinking, with your new accomplishment, are you still going to continue working in your community, and how are you going to use your new achievement to address some of those challenges?
Most definitely. I would never stop. As long as I have breath in me, that is my purpose, to help others and to help my community. The first thing that I think that I'm continuing to push is as it relates to encouraging young persons within my community to know that matters not where you come from, because they know where I come from. They saw me growing up in the community. They know the challenges that I faced. They know the challenges that my mom faced, and what we faced at home and so on. And they know that today that I'm an attorney at law. And I think that once we continue, and Beetham Gardens and East Port of Spain have been year after year producing some of the most positive young persons and citizens that this country would ever see. Many of times, of course, it's lost, as a small story, or something that's to pass over, right? But many times we have to bring these young successful persons from our community and let others in the community know that they can do it too, and it takes that level of involvement with regards from the ground level, in terms of being able to relate to our young persons and let them know, because our challenges are so unique that many a times persons outside of the community don't understand the dynamics of it, right? And I think that I am placed in a position where I have a mixture in terms of being from the community, living in the community, from the community, as well as being able to experience so many other things outside of the community. That would be a nice blend as we go forward in trying to make so many other attorneys, so many doctors, so you just name it. And one of the things
are you going to use your life as an example to inspire others, or do you want to use the fact that you're a lawyer now to go into the community and do that sort of work?
Well, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of both. And one of the things that I'm working on right now is to launch a scholarship fund, the Kareem Marcelle Scholarship Fund. And what it will do is to empower young persons from not only East Port of Spain but throughout Trinidad and Tobago as much as I can reach. To really give them the opportunities apart from, because many times whilst we have, for example, GATE, many of times you would have persons who they have responsibilities. What about the young lady who has a child who has to send her child to school? Or what about the young father as well who has to pay a rent but wants to go back to school, whatever the case may be? Many of times they may need that extra push. And the scholarship is not only going to be based on financial assistance, which would be the core of it, but also as well as connections with mentorship in every field. I do not know where to tell you to start with medicine, but we'll be able to partner with so many different persons from within the community and outside of the community to bring that level of mentorship to our communities. And I think that with not just the help of corporate citizens and members of the communities and mentors, but as well as government buy-in would be key in pushing this in a widespread way. So that's just one of the ways. But I have been trying to do my part from ever since that I even before becoming an attorney at law. But I think that we need to, on a widespread level, we have many of times we have the policies, we have the GATE, we have the CCC, we have the write-up, we have the MUS, we have the MIS, we have all these different challenges. But it's a matter of how do we get to implement it in the right way, make the members of the community actually benefit from it, as well as the continuation after they go. Because we have a lot of places graduates from CCC, HYPE, MUS, all these different programs. But many times they find themselves back on the block. And whilst we have a lot of success stories with going on for persons going on to own their own air-conditioned business, electrical business, whatever the case may be, we have so many different masons and so on that would have went to these and take full advantage of these programs. But we have to reach that point where we understand that there are many that are that are slipping through that cracks, and we need to plaster it, we need to reinforce it, we need to close it, and we need to help some of them who already slipped through the crack, because sometimes in these communities, sometimes it's not one choice, not one chance you need, you don't need two chances. Sometimes it's so many different chances, because what do you tell the young man who is involved in a life of criminal activity, who wants to change their life? Are we going to shun them? Are we going to say that because they have committed some crime before, or they are committing crime now, that is the end of it, that we're going to leave them? How do we rehabilitate them? How do we get them back on the right path? And I think that many a times we come up with these brilliant programs, and the times we leave it there, hoping that the right people would get it. A lot of people are achieving it, but many of times the core persons, the core young people who is really designed for, because this program was not just born just so, it was born out of things like the Selwyn Ryan report. And if you look at it and you look at the youth at risk in our community, in our communities, especially in the East-West corridor, you would realize that there is a key need in bridging that gap between these very fundamental and great policies that the government has to offer, but there's also that missing gap between reaching those most vulnerable.
Now, Kareem, what I'm hearing is a love, obviously, for your community and that need to help your community. And I'm going back to the question about the recipe for success, we can call it that. So we would have mentioned hard work and stuff like that. But one of the things that you keep mentioning is your belief in God. And so I'm wondering how much of that belief actually played a role in where you are now and where you want to be in the future.
I take all my problems to Jehovah God in prayer. It is something that many a times if I get up and I'm busy and I don't get to pray the other way, I will have such an awful day. I will have to stop, whether it's in driving to work or whatever the case may be, to level with Jehovah God, and to pray and to thank Him for all that He has done, and to ask Him for everything that we need to do, that I wish to accomplish. And I think that whilst I am not a person who frequently would attend church as I want to, but I think that my relationship with Jehovah God is what was the key factors in pushing me forward because many a times I didn't know where my next meal coming from. Many a times I would help persons not knowing where my next dollar is coming from to pay my bill. Sometimes I would have money to pay certain bills and help other persons or do other things. And yet still Jehovah God just keep providing and keep opening opportunities and keep opening doors. And sometimes, I know I hear it in different courses, like, why he, where he come from. But to me, it's just Jehovah God, because I'm not sitting here, asking anyone for anything specifically or anything like that, but just doing what I'm ordained to do by Jehovah God.
Now, you would have mentioned the whole host of programs the government has. How important is it for young people to take advantage of these opportunities?
It's very important for them to take advantage of it, and it's sometimes easier said than done, because I will give you an example. Recently, the Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, MP Adrian Leons, we met with regards to rolling out a program in the community of Beaton Gardens, where the AGC with Mr. and of course, in addition to Minister Leons, Chairman Mr. Noel Garcia was also heavily involved, as we tried to create a program where we're going to rebuild some apartments in Phase 4 Beaton Gardens. And apart from that, we came up with the idea not just to have a building built, we cut a ribbon and we go on, but how do we empower persons within our community? How do we give them opportunities and many times bring the programs to them? And we were able to partner with MIC in order to take 10 persons from our community, 10 young persons from our community, to be trained in different fields, whether it's electrical, mason, plumbing, whatever the case may be. And we got those, we had to, I split it up through all the different phases, where I pulled young persons from different phases in the community. And initially, the program was supposed to be run in our community center. However, when MIC did the site visit, they realized that it would not have been a suitable place, and the better fit would have been for them to come to the MIC center in Macoya. And it was 10 young persons, but we did not tell them of that change until the first day. So when they come, we did an orientation in the community center, and then they had to go in the Maxi in order to go. When many of the young persons heard that, at least 5 of them stayed away the first day. And I was upset, I was angry. I was like, first day of your training, you're getting your stipend. What is the issue? It's coming home to you. And we had majority of these young persons afraid to even leave their community, afraid to even step foot out of these communities because of the gang warfare that we have plaguing our society. And that's unique, because many of times, if you miss a first day of work, that is a no-no. You're gone right there. Nobody have time with you to say enough serious. You're gone. And I had to explain to the different stakeholders that, hey, this is what happened here. So how could we work to achieving it? So we had to partner with the interagency task force headed by Senior Soup Subero and the IETF Hearts and Minds, in order to try to partner with them in order to get these young people safely to the MIC center. Because it's not a matter of them being involved in any criminal activity, but the mere fact that they are afraid to be associated, to say that there's a group of 10 young men from Beaton who are jumping in Maxi and going up to Macoya, and then before you know it, that can end up a mass murder. And this is the reality. So it's unique. So they are trying, they very well wanted to take advantage of that. But that uniqueness as it relates to the gang warfare that is holding us back, because we have the Laventil Technology Center that is situated right there in Laventil, opposite from Beaton Gardens, next to Dan Kelly, behind John and at the side of to St. Paul Street and so on. But you have none of our young men from these communities can attend Laventil Technology Center, because they have killed persons in front of that center who was going to that center because they are from one place or the other. So we have to really look at how these things are plaguing our society, and why there's a start line, right? And in terms of many people in the country, see, you have a start line, and if the program is there, then you have the same start line. But many a times you have so many negatives that pulling you back, and sometimes our start line is pulled way back because of the uniqueness with regards to many of times so many other negative factors within our community as it relates to gang warfare, as it relates to stigmatization by the general society, as it relates to discrimination, as it relates to classism. So all of these things add to it. So many times when we say take advantage, many of the time we are already placed on a disadvantage. So that is why I think that it's important for us to recognize, first of all, and able to not just recognize and identify the issues, but to work in solving those issues and bridging that gap.
Yeah. Now, on another note, you would have just started your new job. Tell us about it.
Well, I am in chambers with Mrs. Elder, Senior Counsel, at the chambers of Gera Elder and Associates. Now, this is not an advertisement because we are prohibited pursuant to the Legal Professional
And the
Act.
AG would have warned you about that as well, yes?
Right, it's yeah. But I'm just simply responding that is where I'm at. So, my job has been so amazing. I am honored. I am simply honored to be working in a chambers that I wanted to be in since I was in secondary school. I wanted to learn at the feet of Mrs. Elder, Senior Counsel, who is one of the most prominent attorneys that we have, in this hemisphere in terms of the most prominent senior counsels. And I think that many a times that even when your mentors or persons that you look up to may not be very, very close to you, because I didn't know Mrs. Elder until last year, but I knew of her. I knew how she carried about herself. I knew how she operated in court. I read about her in the newspapers, and I would say, that is someone who I would like to learn immensely from. So I think that I'm living my dream. I'm learning every day. I'm able to grow every day. I'm able to be mentored and given good advice and guidance, not just by Mrs. Elder, but a team of so many great and wonderful, not just attorneys, but people in our chambers. So I have the best job in the world. So I really have the best job in the world. I can't say anything else.
Nice. Now, one of the things that we were hearing all the time, Kareem, is that you had plans for your future all the time. When you were a child, you wanted to become a lawyer. You wanted to work with Pamela, Elder SC. And so you are living what you would have planned for. So what are you planning for the next 10 years?
That's a good question. For the next 10 years, I think I will take this time to build my professional career, to build my personal and family life, to grow in my professional and family life to the best that I can, to continue learning, continue growing, to continue using my platform as a platform for advocacy and positivity, and trying to break that cycle, trying to work very, very hard throughout the East Port of Spain community and throughout Trinidad and Tobago in trying to break the stereotype around our communities and to let Trinidad and Tobago know and the world know that East Port of Spain and Beaton Gardens, we are more than just the crime that faces us, more than the nasty, murky smell that you sometimes smell when you're driving on the bus route and say that these some people nasty. We are more than protesting in a certain way. We are more than that, and I think that this next 10 years, I would try my best in order to work with so many other persons to try to evolve and to continue to produce so many other successful young persons from our community, whilst of course again developing my professional career as an attorney at law and working towards family life. Yeah.
And maybe taking over from the Attorney General one day.
We'll see about that. For the next 10 years, for the next 10 years, that is what I'm focused on.
Of course, Kareem, it was a pleasure, but final thoughts.
Yeah. I am grateful for this platform first to begin, and thank you very much for having me. I hope that I'm able to be an example to so many persons. And I don't hold myself out to be a role model because I am human, I am flawed, and I make mistakes, and many of times I depend on so many persons to guide me on the right path. However, we can all learn something from each other. I'm testament that hard work pays off. I'm testament that sometimes, even when you doubt yourself, but even when you doubt yourself and you don't know how the dreams might be achieved, but you just continue to continue working hard and putting forward that level of dedication. And once it's for you, it's for you. I think I'm testament of that. I'm testament that no matter what is your circumstances, no matter your financial background, no matter whether your parents can't afford to send you to school every day, whether it's your mother can't afford to feed you every day as you wish, whether you are starting school with one shirt and one pants, whether you are never starting school with your full book list, all of that I just described, that was me growing up. And today I am an attorney at law, a humble servant, coming to try to make a difference, but as well, trying to create a path as I go forward, not just for me and for my young nephew and for my nieces and so on, but for an entire community, not just physical community, but a community, a whole diaspora of persons within this country who are told that you are less than because you're from Enterprise, or because you're from CDOTS, or because you're from John, or you're from Mover, or you're from a Hackett, or you're from a Lunu. I want to continue to walk in that path and clear that path for so many other persons, as so many persons before have done. But in this time in here, for me to just continue doing that. So thank you so very much.
Kareem, I have to ask, you would have mentioned the fact that, everything for you is about community. You love your community. You are so proud of it, and you are testament to what you can achieve, even though you would have grown up in some negative circumstances. Do you feel pressure at all that you always have to walk this straight and narrow, and that people are looking up to you for that inspiration and looking up to you to change the stigma of Beetham Gardens?
Listen, you hit the nail on the head there. Because the pressure at times is very overwhelming. Not because only persons are looking to you to set right example, but because, believe it or not, so many persons are waiting for you to fall. And I don't for one moment ever forget it. It's very, what should I tell you? It's very overwhelming at times. In fact, last Friday, I got called to the bar, and Saturday, when I made front page and so on, it was one of the most nerve-wracking days that I had. I was depressed a bit, because I know that with this opportunity comes so many responsibility, with everyone, all eyes on you. But I would say from up front that I am human, I am flawed, I am young, I am willing to learn, I'm willing to make mistakes, and I'm willing to take advice and to be brought on the right path by so many positive role models that I have around me. And most importantly, my faith in Jehovah God. That is what He builds me up. He protects me. He guides me, through His servants and through His people. So I am so wise, overwhelmed at times, and nervous. That faith and that strength comes from my support system, as I said, which is founded on Almighty God.
Well, Kareem, thank you so much for joining us on Delving Deeper. We may have you again in another capacity soon, but again, congratulations on all your achievement, and of course, congratulations as you look towards your future. And I can only imagine what the next 10 years, the next 20 years is going to bring for you.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Join us at the same time next week for another edition of Delving Deeper. I am Kimberly D'Souza, and on behalf of our entire crew, have a good night.